Coming up on Theatre Talk.
What did you say?
I said, come down to the post office with me. I'm going to cash a postal order.
Cash! A postal order.
I mean, get.
You said cash. Why did you say cash if you meant get?
I don't know.
I suggest cash was the truth.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't really.
Theatre Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
Did you steal this postal order?
No, Father, I didn't.
Did you steal this postal order?
No, Father, I didn't.
From New York City, this is Theatre Talk. I'm Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post. Now, Susan, you know I'm a huge Terence Rattigan fan, a playwright who I think is very much undervalued here in New York, and one of his great plays is The Winslow Boy. And if any production is going to restore Terence Rattigan to his rightful place in the pantheon of great writers, it is going to be this production at the Roundabout.
It is wonderful.
It's really terrific. It stars a first-rate cast led by Charlotte Parry. Welcome to Theatre Talk.
Thank
First
you.
time here. Alessandro Nivola, who is giving a terrific performance in the role of the cool, calculating lawyer, although there's tumult underneath all that, I believe. Welcome to Theatre Talk.
Many layers.
And always happy to see our good friend, the great actor, Roger Rees as the father. Did you ever think Roger would come to you playing a father in a Terence Rattigan?
No, it's grandfather's next, isn't it? I'm really excited.
But the father is the father.
Pivotal. It's a guy.
No insult to you, the two, but he is the main character of this play, and he's the linchpin of the production.
Yes, he interacts
It's
with
like
everyone
no
all the way, so
small
you follow
role.
him. No, it's a wonderful role, and I've seen it played many times in the repertory system in Great Britain, where it's a sort of staple of, you know, you'd agree, wouldn't you? I mean, it's done a lot, and I've seen some wonderful actors play this part, and when they offered it to me, I said, oh yes, because it's just such an affecting part. It's sort of like Rattigan's King Lear, really, in a way, because he sort of, you know, he ages and becomes to know himself much better at the end. He understands, and you know, it's wonderful.
He sacrifices everything, including his life, really, ultimately, certainly his health in this play.
Yes, he does. He gives everything to this idea of honor about the boy, believing that his son did not steal some money at school.
Yes, for anyone who hasn't seen The Winslow Boy, the basic plot of it is that a young boy at school is accused of stealing £5 postage.
5 shillings.
5 shillings.
5 shilling, right, exactly.
Whatever the hell that means.
And he's expelled from school and goes home to confront his father, and his father believes his son is innocent and hires great lawyer, played by you, to defend his son, but in so doing takes a toll on the family, the finances, and ultimately your health.
Yeah, the daughter's marriage goes
My
down.
marriage.
And your marriage as well, yeah, I forgot about
That's
that.
right, because he's the most expensive lawyer. You know, he's the best. This man is a patriarchal Edwardian figure in this period is 1913, so just the world is going to change with the First World War, and so he represents a kind of an absolutist sort of figure, and he changes as the world will change, of course. You know, it's very interesting. Sort of younger people come in, different thoughts come, and really in a way his daughter carries on his name, not the son.
You get the sense that since it's a different time period now, that the son and honor for the son is all important. And the daughter, he doesn't realize how brilliant and how strong she is until later on in the play. She's the person who really stands by him.
And she's most like him, I think.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way too, playing the part?
Yeah, absolutely. She really is her father's daughter.
Arthur is silent a lot on stage when these two have interchanges, and you can sense there's a sort of wonderful romanticism about the nature that these two people really should get together. They don't get together in the play, but you sense that sort of Arthur would like that.
And you fantasize that they can get together after, even though you know they can't
Such
possibly.
a clever play.
But well, maybe, are you thinking they could?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there's
not
no
bad
reason
looking.
why.
But I was saying that to someone that even if you don't get together with the lawyer, your life is better off for not having that awful deadbeat boyfriend. I mean, you're the one. You're the one that you go, no. Even if she's a spinster for the rest of her life, a feminist poor spinster, she's better off than having married that guy.
In both movie versions of the play, Rattigan changed the ending. so that it's much clearer that they do get together.
The lawyer,
Oh.
you
And I'm
and
sure that
Charlotte-
it happened because some
So he gives
film
the
studio said,
Hollywood
Buddy,
hap-
we cannot end the movie. We can't end the movie like this.
With the lovers not coming together.
But the way you play, I mean, of course, Rattigan was the master of the implicit, repressed sexual longing. But it is so, I rarely use this phrase, but I will. It is so hot, the interchange between the two of you, where you just admire her hat. And it is, to me, so much more erotic than, let's say, if they were, making out on the stage.
From my point of view, just playing the role, I mean, I always felt from the start, reading it, that it was very important that he be driven by romance rather than by intellectual things, because I just don't think that a play can survive on, ideas alone. And more over the course of working on the play and performing the play, I've come around to just feeling that everything he does in the play is for her.
Really?
And,
From the moment he walks into that room and notices her, he wants to show off for her?
Yeah, I mean, the first scene is really a kind of a play unto itself.
A wonderful scene, yeah.
Where he's deciding whether or not to take the case, and it's a kind of theatrical trick, really. But from the moment that he agrees to take it on, he makes all these huge sacrifices for the sake of staying with the case for 2 years.
He turns down a high government appointment.
He turns down the Lord Chief Justice and
Yeah.
the highest, position in the land, and he's clearly, when the trial is finished, and even though it's been he's won, he's devastated.
Because he's not going to see her again.
Because they've had this kind of status quo now for a couple of years, where he's been able to integrate himself into this family and be around her, and just day after day keep coming around and making little jokes about her hat, which are, sexually charged, as you noticed. And now the status quo is just going to be blown to smithereens, and he's faced with having to, make some kind of like vulnerable emotion.
He'll have to ask her on a date. Let's hope.
Well, the furthest you get is I will. How many times do you say I will see you in the house
Yeah,
again?
he keeps
One day,
like
we
trying to
will
get
in
her
the
to
gallery.
make him do a
One
promise.
day. I was like, here's my phone number.
Yeah, exactly.
Roger, I want to ask you, you've seen many productions of the Winslow Boy.
Or some, yeah.
Memories of some of the great actors that you saw play your part, or play the lawyer, the dog?
I knew Nigel Hawthorne very well, who
wonderful
played, we did a play called Hapgood together in London. And I remember Nigel knew he was going to do the movie at that time, and he was full of it. And we talked about it for hours. It's just such a kind of affecting part.
You guys being a slightly different generation from Rogers. Where did Rattigan how did you perceive Rattigan when you were at drama school or studying plays? Has Rattigan studied much, talked about much? Did you do much Rattigan growing up?
We probably had very different experiences.
We probably had different.
You're English and I'm not.
Is he still sort of dismissed in English drama schools?
I don't think it's dismissed. My memory of sort of having to read. When I was at university, it was sort of a Greek and Shakespeare, Greeks, Shaw, and that for some reason we didn't have to read Rattigan.
Well, it's just out of fashion.
I'm sad about that.
Yeah.
And you, as an American actor, anyone read Rattigan at American drama schools?
Well, I didn't go to drama school. So maybe they did, maybe they didn't. No, I mean, I really didn't come in contact with any of his plays at all growing up. I think probably the movie of the Winslow Boy was the first time I'd heard the name Terence Rattigan, but I didn't know what that signified. I didn't know even that I definitely didn't know that he was a 40s playwright. I didn't know that he was writing about the Edwardian period. I didn't know that much about Edwardian England. I didn't know that much about England at all. So when I was up until
you know,
15 years ago when I married an English girl. So, that was my crash course.
When you were a young actor, Roger, had Rattigan fallen out of favor?
I think he had, although I was in the Cambridge Theatre Company with Zoe Wanamaker at one time, and we played the young lovers in French Without Tears.
Oh, yeah.
And we ran about the stage in our bathing costumes, I think.
Oh.
we were
But was he
very
sort of,
pretty.
I mean, you know, when John Osborne came in with Look Back in Anger, that kind of blew all these guys away, the Somerset Maughams and the Rattigans who wrote these drawing room plays. And was he just not in favor when you were...
I think there was a sort of you know, a melding of the two things. I think the anti-establishment sort of theatre of Osborne and Orton and people like that, you know, the angry young men, the loud noises, made people like Somerset Maugham and you know, Priestley and Rattigan slightly defunct, and yet you can't take away the exquisite nature of this. I don't think this is a well-made play. This is a well-written play, The Winslow Boy. I think it's exquisitely well written, you know. And they weren't doing that. They were being much more brutal. They demanded and I would say to add to their argument, the Osborneites, is that Rattigan himself made a lot of money out of French Without Tears when it was on. He was a millionaire early in his life.
He was the richest playwright of his day.
Yeah, and he rode around in the Rolls Royce.
Yep.
And you know, when he wrote The Prince and the Showgirl for Olivier and Marilyn Monroe, and you know, he had parties with Arthur Miller there at his house and things. He was really up there. He thought of himself as the guy. I don't think he was miserable at the end of his life. He went off to Hollywood, make some movies, not so good movies.
I know, but I have a soft spot in my heart for the VIP.
Yeah.
As lucrative as his career remained in screenwriting, he apparently, from his biographer says, was quite upset that he had gone out of fashion in this way, and that he was being shunned, as you know, shunned as the major playwright of Britain.
Yes,
he was quite struck by
it was the major playwright.
Why do you think, I mean, really what you're sort of moving towards is the fact that he's back in style, and not just because of our production, but in the last 5
In England, there have been
years,
4 or 5 Rattigan
there have
productions
been
lately.
a lot, and I remember reading the reviews of this production at the Old Vic back in the spring when Lindsay had asked me to do this one.
The director, Lindsay.
Because Lindsay Posner had also directed it at the Old Vic with a different cast, and almost every single review sort of chronicled exactly what you guys just talked about, and then said, you know, it's time, you know, it's time we welcome him back. And then a lot of the critics seem to say the same thing after seeing our production. And I just wonder, why do you think, what is it about this moment that seems to, where people are finally willing to
What do you think?
love him
I suspect
again?
the truth is really, it is, this play is his major work, I think, and this kind of sense of humanity about it. Underneath the surface, you know, where the English people don't say no, they say thank you, no. You know, they say things like that. We say quite, we say rather. We're all hidden away.
I know,
but
but the play has been done.
humanity,
It's
you
been
know.
done in England all through the past 30
But not,
years.
it
or
hasn't
something.
had a major revival here, as you know.
Do you want to take a stab at this, Charlotte? Why do you think Rattigan's time has come round again?
I sort of feel like it's just a case of taking this play in particular and doing it really well. I feel like it's almost sort of circumstance that 2 great productions in London and here, very close to each other, both of which are very good versions of, I think, his finest work.
His finest work.
I think had this happened 10 years ago, people will probably be saying that 10 years ago.
I don't think that Rattigan's going to come back in style. I think it's, as you say, this is his most accessible and beloved play. And perhaps also, too, it's because it is about right being done. And it is about having some kind of vindication of personal morals, which in this day and age, I think we badly need to see.
Here comes Goody Haskins, my
No,
co-host here.
but I really
Finger
think,
wag.
again, I think it's something that audiences want right now, the satisfaction of the good guy winning.
Well, let me just add, I think Rattigan is going to be back in fashion, should be back in fashion. He clearly is in London. And I think the problem has been that there was this perception that there would be these drawing room plays, beautiful curtains, nice furniture, and it was going to be stiff and boring. And it's only because people don't read the plays. There is nothing stiff or boring or unemotional about the Winslow Boy or about the Browning version. Just as I always get upset when people say, well, I don't really like Shaw because, as one critic once said, you know, he's dead from the neck down. That means you're not reading Shaw. There is tremendous passion and sexual energy in those plays, in Caesar and Cleopatra. I mean, these guys knew how to write love and romance and passion without even using the words. That's why I think these plays will always live on, and why in such a fine production they're so palpable and so exciting.
Well, you are seeing the major revival of Rattigan of the 21st century, and so whether or not he comes back with a vengeance, people don't want to miss this one with these terrific actors.
I want to see a Rattigan season at the Roundabout.
No,
you guys do
I
it.
do not.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, wouldn't it be fun to do a
suggested.
Rattigan rep? You guys could do different
We could
parts.
do it. We could
Well,
do
we
several
were-
plays on that one set.
We've
is
been,
what we want.
we've been saying that this set is perfect to have. You know, we could be doing a Shaw, a
Yeah,
that's right, that's
Rattigan,
right.
You could be doing the Somerset Maugham play on that
Yeah.
stuff.
That's
I mean,
right.
we've
With
hit on a way to
curtains to
save the
die for.
Roundabout
be a
money.
logistical nightmare.
This
for
is
the
a historic
Roundabout,
meeting. Right?
One set and bring back all those great playwrights from the early 20th century.
The tickets will fly out of the box
I
office.
hope you're
But
listening to
meanwhile,
Todd
you're doing
Haynes.
very well.
The play is called The Winslow Boy by the great playwright Terence Rattigan at the Roundabout Theatre Company, American Airlines Theatre, I think. Right? Terrific performances from Charlotte Parry, Alessandro Nivola. I'm sorry, did I get that right?
Almost. You were very close.
I almost called you,
got all the way to the last
Alessandro-
letter,
I
and then you
almost-
tripped and fell flat on your
I almost
face.
called you Ivor Novello. Speaking
I'll take it.
Or as our
Wouldn't be
director
the
called him,
first.
Alexandria. Alexandria.
Alexandria. All right, Charlotte, Alessandro, and our good friend Roger Rees in the great production of The Winslow Boy at the Roundabout Theatre Company. Don't miss it. Thanks a lot for being our guest tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks a
you.
lot.
I suggest that by continuing to deny your guilt, you are causing great hardship to your own family and considerable annoyance to high and important persons in this country.
That's a disgraceful thing to say.
I agree. I suggest that the time is at last come for you to undo some of the misery you have caused by confessing to us all now that you are a forger, a liar, and a thief. I'm not, I didn't do it. This is outrageous, sir.
It is the 100th anniversary of the birth of a terrific English playwright, Terence Rattigan. And to talk about his life and his works, we are joined by John Simon of John Simon Uncensored, your new website, John, where you are free to say whatever you want to say about anything and anyone,
Well, the blog is more important.
which is Uncensored John Simon.
And there I'm really free.
Terrorizing everybody. And John is also writing reviews for the Westchester Guardian and the Yonkers Tribune. And he is a pro Terence Rattigan fan, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Taking the opposite side is someone who is not so keen on Terence Rattigan.
Where is he?
John Heilpern, who was for many years the drama critic at the New York Observer and is now a contributing editor to Vanity Fair, where he has a monthly column. Welcome to Theater Talk, John. And sitting in the middle, braving two critics, is one of the few actors, I think, who really can act kind of world that Terence Rattigan created in his plays. Our good friend Edward Hibbert. Welcome back to Theater Talk, Edward. Now, John, you wrote a terrific biography of John Osborne.
Thank you.
And John Osborne was the playwright who kind of destroyed the world of the Terence Rattigan elegant drawing room play. Do you think
Yes.
do you think Osborne had to do that? Do you think those plays had really outlived their purpose at that time?
Well, there's so many revivals of them in England right now. Not so, but at the time it was very necessary, really. It was a convulsive revolution, really, in British theatre, right, Edward? But Osborne and Wesker, Pinter, and on the global stage, guys like Beckett, Brecht, my goodness me, were not about cozy, middle-class, safe, bourgeois dramas.
I don't know whether I'd use the word bourgeois per se about some of Rattigan's plays. I think, going back to what John was saying about the exportability of Rattigan, if you think about what his plays, I mean, he wrote some very charming, enduring comedies. And then he would go to these darker plays, such as, well, Separate Tables to a degree, Cause Célèbre, about the Alma Rattenbury murder trial, and there were others such as that. So there's a lot of it's English emotional reserve, which is what his territory is, and I don't think that's. I think it can be appreciated over here, but I'm not sure. I mean, a play like The Deep Blue Sea, I think that is the definition of a play which epitomizes English emotional sensibility.
Very elegantly put in defense of his work, of course, and you're right. But the emotional reticence and the idea that no one could ever speak the truth, least of all about your sexually repressed life, and that this had to be disguised according to the mores of the time and also according to the audience you're appealing to.
That's right.
Why would that appeal to an American audience in particular, where everything is on the table? And why would it appeal to a large segment of the British population who was Osborne's world?
Yeah, sure.
Who were these strange people called young people, and there were strange people called working class people.
Yes, and of course that's when writers like Rattigan and Coward sort of went south with the emergence of the Osbornes.
They were
and the Pinters.
much to their own bitterness, which is very understandable, because they were made irrelevant.
The reason that the taste swung over from the Rattigan, Coward, Lonsdale, Novello, whoever they were, to Osborne and that crowd is that the social situation changed. After the war, I mean, austerity set in England, and those new playwrights wrote about austerity, whereas the old playwrights wrote about Savile Row and Rolls Royces and luxurious living and cigarette holders, and naturally, if the society changes, the plays will change too.
I want to ask you though, John, do you disagree when John Heilpern says there was this cozy bourgeoisness to it? Because I get a sense from those plays that he's kind of undermining that cozy.
Of course he was. I mean, one of his most famous saying is, the vice anglais is not flagellation and not pederasty or pederasty. It is emotional coldness, emotional withholding, emotional reticence. And obviously he was writing about it, but not in favor of it, but in condemnation of it.
Yes, that's a very nice revisionist approach to what he was really doing. But he wasn't, because he invented, as his audience, as you will remember, Edward, the ideal audience member he christened Aunt Edna.
That's right.
Right?
No, that wasn't the ideal. That was the typical.
It was his ideal audience, John, in 1952, and I'll quote it for you because I brought it along just in case you argued with me. Right? And it's the introduction to his own selected plays.
Yes, I know.
And his perfect audience, who he nicknamed Aunt Edna, quote, didn't possess much knowledge or discernment. She is, and I quote, in short, a hopeless lowbrow. Please note that, John.
Yeah.
Adding that the dramatist who displeased her is, quote, utterly lost. That's who he's appealing to, and that's who the Osborne generation killed.
And you don't
And they meant to kill him, even though Osborne liked his plays.
John overlooks the irony in Rattigan when he writes those things.
He's making fun of Aunt Edna.
The twinkle in his eye, which somehow does not twinkle for John.
Well, I wasn't there at the time, John, so I don't know. How about the twinkle of this in his eye, which is another statement which I brought along, John, just in case, that he made in the New Statesman, 1950, right? I don't think ideas, per se, social, political, or moral, have a very important place in the theatre. That would do in the entire work of Shaw, Brecht, and Beckett, to name but three, at least one of whom I know you like.
Oh, I like more than one. Well, he said he concentrated on character. What he was interested in was not ideas, but character. But if you concentrate on character, sympathetically enough, deeply enough, understandingly enough, out come ideas, because people stand for things.
Since we don't see the plays a lot, there are some movies of Rattigan's, and I'm curious to know, Edward, is there a movie of his that you're fond of that you would recommend?
I'm very
people look
fond
at?
of, and I must just make this clear, the original film version of the Browning version with Michael Redgrave. I find it riveting that of all writers, David Mamet should have taken on The Winslow Boy.
Yeah, which he
and done
adapted.
his own adaptation of it. If you think about bipolar, Mamet to Rattigan, that's good. Separate Tables movie, it's all right.
John, do you have anything you can recommend of Rattigan's? I know we're not exactly a fan.
Absolutely, for sure. The VIPs.
Oh, yes,
That's a
wonderful
great
movie.
With Burton,
AMC
Taylor,
all the time.
Margaret Rutherford, who else?
Maggie Smith.
Maggie Smith.
Yeah.
Wonderful rainy day afternoon. movie, soap opera really, of the other one is The Winslow Boy. It's a super film. And if you want to know a cultural difference with America, it's Mamet's ruination of the film, surely. Who had no idea what understatement is. Why would he? Why would he know what emotional repression is?
Who's in the original, by the way, Winslow Boy, the movie?
Robert Donat.
It is Robert Donat.
Robert Donat.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I was just going to say how wonderful it is to have in the Winslow Boy a father fighting for his young son's honor, saying that the boy didn't filch money. That's consider that with today's standards.
It's about justice.
About justice.
The price of justice.
Yes.
And it's clarion call that right must be done.
Well, you can agree with that.
I am.
Well, I'm delighted, though, that Rattigan, all these years, still provokes debate. Why not? Gentlemen, thank you very much for being our guests tonight on Theatre Talk.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. You can sign up for viewer updates at theatretalk.org.
Or you can follow us on Twitter. Our thanks to the Friends of Theatre Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theatre Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Eleanor Naylor Dana Charitable Trust, the Corey and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, and the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theatre Talk. Thank you and good night.